cold. Immediate requirement. Please work. Please work. Please work. Begin. Please. Well, this is going to be shit. Hey! So today we're going to deal with this. Now, I did say this is going to be a bit of a tricky thing, mainly because A, I think the other side's just as bad, so there's no point in using it as a template, and B, see above, I don't have a template. So I'm not entirely sure this is meant to look, but I have looked at some examples online, and by the way, the search for R33 Skyline sill without wing on doesn't really yield a lot of Google results, so I took a bit of YouTube video hunting, frankly. So I'm going to make something up for this. It's probably going to be a lot of hammering and montage nonsense, so what we're also going to do in this episode is start stripping off this so I can get to that. So first steps first, I need to get changed, and it is -5 today. Yay! This is not going to be easy. So in the last episode, this is a repair panel, this guy, by the way, and that runs the whole length because this has had a sill at some point, and there clearly wasn't quite enough metal for them to weld it to, so this was sitting dangling. Now I've actually just utilised this. I've hammered it in, put a plate that goes from the floor down, welded the floor to the top of that, and I've gusseted all of this so that it actually resembles something that's going to, give strength. Now the issue I'm going to have is, this is where the wing for the car comes in, so this has to be recessed all the way around so that that all looks the same. Now I should point out, I could be as absolutely minge as you like and just not do anything with this, because A, it's hidden with a wing, and B, it's also then hidden with a side skirt that goes over the wing, but bugger me if I'm not a professional, I want it to look roughly OEM. So this is going to be a nightmare to get a weld onto. I mean, look at it. It's, in fact, I think it's gone. Let's just call it what it is. But I've not cut this out because it does give me the profile and a rough guide for how the metal should look when it comes out. I think the best way to do this is take a chunk out of the sill as well, and then just make this part where it all does the whole foldy nonsense stuff off the car, and then we'll go from there forward. So I'm going to cut here, but in order to not lose the reference point for this, I'm going to mark here where that fold line needs to be, and I'm going to keep this gap here, I think, just so I know at the bottom where that needs to be as well. So, chop chop! Also, the lights on the floor, so spooky Halloween stories ahoy. Right, let's have a wee chat. So now you can see why I wanted these two panels off. Not just because, well, we knew there was rust underneath, but we really needed to figure out how much. And as you can see, a lot more than I would have guessed. As is always the theme when you're doing welding repairs on a 25-year-old car, whatever rust you find, there's going to be more. So what I can establish here is, I thought we were going to get away with this part here, we're not. This hole through the back is actually not meant to be there. I thought it might have been like a wee air gap hole or something. Doesn't look like it. But behind there's a panel here that supports some relay nonsense and just adds a gusset. That's gone. That's going to have to get cut off. We're going to have to obviously put a weld in here. I don't think I want to take all of this out because why would I? So we'll probably put a repair panel in. This is what remains of the inner skin for all of this. So we'll cut that out. Similarly, we've got a wee hole up here. That's going to need a patch repair because that's an entire A-pillar if they don't. And then we'll get into the rest. But oddly enough, the thing that goes wrong in Skylines all the time is the turrets, and they're solid. Now, that tells me that they've been done already, because why else would you have solid turrets and everything around it would be crust. That's a massive win for me though, to be quite honest, because if I had to take those out as well, I'd probably weep myself into the next year. So we've got a datum here that we can use for this. Moving down to the front, we're going to have to do a repair on the tub down at the bottom, but that'll be a patch as well, just to bring us up to good metal here. I'm going to cut this thing out, this wee gusset, because it's crusty, and whilst it probably I could get away with it, why would you? It's open and it's exposed, replace it. The good news is, once we get to the front, it's mint. I mean, it's all good. The lip here for attaching this guy back onto, I probably will cut out and replace, because it looks a bit sheepish and it's getting thin, and I don't like welding to thin metal, so I'm going to put some thick in instead. Take out the thin, put in the thick, remove the dust, replace with solid. Understandably, I'm videoing a lot while I go here, not just for you guys to look at, but for myself, because the more I remove, and bearing in mind that I'm not actually removing solid panels here, I'm removing dust, the less likely I'm going to be to remember where this all is supposed to go, and where the overlap lines are more than anything else, because that is where this car gets its strength from. Anything that's a monocoque, you've got to have the overlap, and that binds all the sheet panel together. Get those wrong and then it gets a bit flexy. So yeah, I need to be very, very conscious of when I'm doing that it's not just like slapped on. These overlaps need to be there. Oh, I think that's the last. I hope that's the last of the cutting. So I now have what should be a game plan, and it looks like this. There's a wee hole here, so I've cut that out. So we need to make a panel here that goes up to like here, and that forms the inner tub for that. Then we need to make another panel that comes up here and projects out to there and out to there along. Luckily, I think I've still got enough of the old stuff to remember what that should look like. We also need to get an inner panel here, which I don't think connects to that, but it'll just be a nice big thick bit of metal, and that's going to go over here and weld onto that. That provides the strength. So this will go over to there and project out. Then, and I hope that should be it, we can look to put in the big rotten panel that we've been missing, and then everything else goes back on. So the only other bit of sketchy welding that I need to do, as you can see, we've put this in, so that's now not a hole. There's these two holes here, but the problem, these have been like spot welds that have just rotten from the inside out. The only worry I've got is I think there's like modules and stuff behind here. So I'll psych myself up to that and take out as little as I can and just sort of stitch weld in something. But I'm going to focus on the tub first and get something resembling a car again, just for the motivation of nothing else.
this be my understanding? It's not your fault, I was being too demanding. I must admit, it's my pride that made me distant.
Now you may think here that I have mismeasured this, but I have not. For what I have done is do this repair panel in 2 bits, because there's far too many folds, there's a crescent over the wheel arch to make, it's just not going to happen. So what we've done is I've projected the line for the top panel down, I've measured in this distance and projected that line there, and what I'm going to do is we're going to do a fold line up. I'll probably trim this, I'm not entirely sure yet how that's all going to work, but once that's folded up, that will give us an edge here at the back of this, and we can put on more metal that will come around and give us a lip. So that's the plan. However, from here forward, we're going to have to do the other panel. So as you can gather, I've trimmed off all the rusty crap that used to be the old version of this off of that. So I'll need to do the same rust removal for the front panel, just to make sure that that crescent line matches from here forward. Does that sound convincing? But at least now I do know my projection line, so I can actually just take this all the way forward and fold it up, and that will be the panel line. We'll just need to then deal with the crescent when we've got the front panel in place. Aye, I've convinced myself, and that's all I really need to do at the moment. So once we've done all that, we'll then add the gusseting in that we've omitted, but that's down the line. Right, more welding. So we're back to this point. That is, we've got a wee bit of shaping here to do obviously, but that's these panels ready to go on. However, as you probably noted, we may have to do some repairs on these as well. Just so that, I mean, these guys are going to be kind of visible, especially the bits that are sitting underneath the bonnet. Like once the wing's on, you're probably not going to notice this, but these parts here are quite exposed. So I want them to look correct. So obviously there's extra holes where extra welds have been put in. So I think what we'll do is we'll just cut clean lines and just put extra metal on, trim it off, make sure the welds are nice and flat so that it looks like it's a standard panel. Then we'll put the pilot holes in for the new weld holes and we'll go with that. So the only thing I need to be wary of here is all of this goes in place because of the original holes we have that tie up to the original sort of slug welds. So once we repair this, all of that reference goes away. So I'm gonna have to be really cautious and make sure that it's sitting right and properly ready to go. So I think what we're gonna do is, there's actually metal missing from here, and there's a bit of corrosion behind it. So I think what we'll do is we'll cut here, we'll put a new panel on, it'll take it to this ridge along the door line. We'll put the pop holes in, and then with the panel aligned, I'm going to mark through the holes where it's meant to sit, and then we're just going to repeat. So I'll maybe cut this line off, put a new panel on here, pop the holes through, and actually mark on that ridge behind there where it's meant to sit. And as we're going, we're just adding references in, and then when it's time to weld, we'll buff all the dots off, make sure there's clean metal on. Away we go, Robert's your mother's brother. That's the next and hopefully the last step, and then we're done with the front. Thank Christ, because it's cold. One last job for this episode is going to be gussets. Now gussets might seem like a strange thing to pick up on because there wasn't really much in the way of gussets there before. It's because they've completely rotted out and I'm going to have to put new gussets in. Now previously what we had was from here to here a strip of steel folded over the top and the bottom sort of seam lines, and that was like a pressed steel thing with some forming through it that added strength. Now I don't have any way of forming it, well, neatly, but I do know how to make a gusset, as those who have watched the channel are aware of. So I'm going to get a wee bit improvisational, and we're going to make a gusset that's going to run from like here at the turret, probably down to about here, just to add strength and stop that kind of weaker area where there's not a lot of steel from flexing about, much in the same way that this one I had in mind. And this is just pure improvisation. Not too shabby. That has been a long, extensive, but successful repair. So that's the front end done. We have reinstated the strength that this car should have had from the factory, and as you can see, it's looking more or less the way it should. Okay, we're not done. I forgot about this, which was the thing we meant to do at the very beginning. I'm freezing. We'll do this next time because, yeah. Look, that's done. That's progress. This will be simple. We'll get back to that later. If you just found this, clearly we've got more to do, so stay subscribed, bell, subscribe, like, all that jazz, because you know that's what folk do on YouTube. If you'd like to support a bit more than that, that would be great too. Patreon.com/toolsandtrack. Get stuff like this, early access, Patreon only episodes, blah blah blah. You know, all that good stuff you get with that. And until next time, guys, drive safe and not in salty roads. It's a sad day, boys. We need to pour a wee drink out for a fallen comrade. The old Tools and Track lid, which, by the way, as you can tell, UV light's bad for you because look at the nick of that sticker. I just dropped it. So, didn't actually work out that I broke it when I dropped it. I worked out when my eyes went a bit funny because the auto darkening doesn't work anymore. So I think we're going to go buy a proper one. But rest in peace, good friend.